In a jaw-dropping moment broadcast live, the House Speaker stunned the nation by openly declaring Nigel Farage as the next Prime Minister. What followed was a shocking breakdown from Keir Starmer, whose composure cracked under the weight of this unexpected political earthquake. This is not just another political drama, this could reshape the future of Britain. Stay tuned as we unpack the explosive fallout that has left the Labour leader reeling and the country on edge. The political landscape in Britain was thrown into utter chaos just moments ago. In an unprecedented and electrifying live broadcast, the House Speaker, an influential and traditionally neutral figure, made a statement that has sent shockwaves through Westminster and across the nation. With clear conviction, the Speaker declared Nigel Farage, the outspoken former UKIP leader and Reform UK figurehead, as the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This stunning proclamation was unexpected, breaking all norms of political protocol and etiquette. And it instantly created a firestorm of reactions from every corner of the political spectrum. The weight of this announcement hit hardest on Keir Starmer, Labour's leader, who was visibly shaken and deeply affected by the news. Throughout the broadcast, Starmer's usual composed and calculated demeanour began to unravel. The Labour leader, long seen as a steady hand against the rising tide of right-wing populism, was suddenly exposed in a moment of raw emotion and vulnerability. His voice trembled, and his eyes betrayed the frustration and despair brewing beneath his calm surface. For a man who has faced intense scrutiny and pressure for years, this moment marked a breaking point. This live declaration by the House Speaker did not come out of nowhere. Behind the scenes, intense political manoeuvring had been underway for weeks, with whispers and speculation about a shifting alliance that could potentially unseat the current government. Farage's Reform UK party had been gaining momentum, tapping into growing dissatisfaction among voters with the mainstream parties, particularly Labour and the Conservatives. The House Speaker's statement confirmed what many had feared, and some had hoped for, the rise of a new political force ready to challenge the establishment. The ramifications of this announcement are enormous. It sends a clear message that the traditional political order is in turmoil and that the electorate's appetite for change has reached a boiling point. For Starmer, this is not just a political blow, but a personal and leadership crisis. His party, once seen as the beacon of hope for progressive Britain, now faces the reality of a fractured base and growing defections. Labour MPs have reportedly been scrambling behind the scenes, with some expressing doubts about their future under Starmer's leadership. As the news spreads, the public's reaction is intense and polarised. Supporters of Nigel Farage have erupted in celebration, viewing this moment as the dawn of a new era where their voice finally commands the highest office. Meanwhile, many Labour supporters and political commentators are scrambling to make sense of the Speaker's unprecedented move. Questions swirl about the legality and constitutionality of the declaration. Could this really happen? What does it mean for democracy and the balance of power in Britain? This moment marks a turning point in British politics, one that is still unfolding and full of uncertainty. With the House Speaker stepping out of traditional neutrality, the stage is set for a fierce battle over the country's future. The Labour leader's breakdown is a symbol of the intense pressure and fear gripping the party, but it also highlights the deep divisions within the UK's political landscape. The next hours and days will be critical as politicians, the media and the public react to this historic and explosive event. The political shockwaves from the House Speaker's declaration continue to reverberate across the United Kingdom with a force few could have predicted. The Speaker's announcement, effectively endorsing Nigel Farage as the next Prime Minister, has shattered the traditional boundaries of parliamentary protocol and plunged the political system into a state of unprecedented uncertainty. This statement, delivered live on air, was not merely symbolic, but a signal that a seismic shift is underway in British politics, signalling the collapse of old alliances and the rise of new power dynamics that could redefine the nation's future. Keir Starmer's emotional breakdown in the immediate aftermath of the announcement revealed the immense pressure the Labour leader is under. Starmer has long been positioned as the centre-left alternative to both Conservative rule and the populist surge that Farage represents. However, this crushing public moment exposed vulnerabilities in his leadership that had previously been carefully concealed behind a mask of controlled rhetoric and political discipline. The Labour leader's visible distress signals not only personal anguish, but also a wider crisis within his party, which has been grappling with internal dissent, policy disagreements, and a declining base of voter support. The public spectacle of Starmer breaking down on live television sent shockwaves not just through Labour's ranks, but also through the wider political landscape. Behind closed doors, Labour officials and MPs have been scrambling to respond to this rapidly evolving crisis. There is growing concern that Starmer's grip on the party may be slipping as members question the viability of his leadership in the face of such an unprecedented political upheaval. The House Speaker's declaration has emboldened Farage's supporters and those within Reform UK who believe that this moment represents a historic turning point, a chance to break the grip of establishment politics and bring about radical change. The sudden elevation of Farage as the next Prime Minister, even if symbolic for now, has galvanised a base disillusioned with traditional politics and eager for a populist alternative that promises to shake up Westminster. The constitutional implications of the House Speaker's statement have sparked intense debate among legal experts, politicians, and constitutional scholars. Traditionally, the Speaker is seen as a neutral arbiter, responsible for maintaining order in the House of Commons and upholding parliamentary rules without showing favour to any party or leader. By publicly declaring Farage the next Prime Minister, the Speaker has broken with this centuries-old convention, raising urgent questions about the separation of powers and the impartiality of parliamentary institutions. Critics argue that this move threatens to undermine the very foundations of British democracy, while supporters claim it reflects the will of a significant portion of the electorate demanding change. Public reaction has been fierce and deeply divided. Farage's supporters have greeted the announcement with jubilation, viewing it as a vindication of their political efforts and a sign that their voice is finally being heard at the highest levels of power. For many, Farage represents an alternative to what they see as a broken political system dominated by career politicians and unresponsive elites. Meanwhile, many Labour voters and progressive commentators have expressed shock and disbelief, fearing that the Speaker's declaration could open the door to political instability and threaten the social progress achieved over decades. This polarisation reflects a nation at a crossroads, torn between a desire for change and fears about the consequences of such a dramatic shift. The Conservative Party, caught in the middle of this storm, is also facing intense pressure. With the Speaker's declaration undermining their position and Farage's rising popularity siphoning away traditional Conservative voters, party leaders are scrambling to regroup and formulate a response. The party's unity is under threat as internal factions debate whether to align with Farage's Reform UK or to double down on traditional Conservative values in an attempt to reclaim lost ground. This uncertainty within the Conservatives adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile political environment, increasing the risk of a prolonged period of instability and government paralysis. As the dust settles from this explosive announcement, questions loom large about what happens next. The declaration by the House Speaker, while historic, does not automatically confer power. There remains a constitutional process and parliamentary vote that must take place before any formal change in leadership. However, the damage to Starmer's credibility and the momentum gained by Farage cannot be ignored. Political commentators are predicting a fierce power struggle ahead, with potential snap elections, realignments of party loyalties, and an uncertain future for the country's governance. This moment could mark the beginning of a new political era, one where traditional party loyalties are shattered and populist forces rise to challenge the establishment like never before. For the British public, the coming days and weeks will be filled with intense political drama and uncertainty. Citizens are watching closely as the parties react, alliances shift, and the constitutional machinery struggles to cope with this unprecedented crisis. Starmer's emotional breakdown is emblematic of the larger turmoil gripping Westminster, a system pushed to its limits by a political earthquake that has unsettled the foundations of power and threatens to redraw the map of British politics for years to come. The Speaker's declaration may have been made just moments ago, but its impact is already reshaping the nation in ways that will be felt long into the future. As the political turmoil unfolds, the spotlight intensifies on Nigel Farage, the controversial figure now thrust into the spotlight as the House Speaker publicly declared him the next Prime Minister. Farage's rise from a populist outsider to the centre of British political power is nothing short of extraordinary. Over the years, he has built a formidable base of support by relentlessly criticising the political establishment, championing Brexit, and positioning himself as the voice of those left behind by globalisation and traditional politics. This unexpected endorsement by the Speaker has elevated Farage's political profile to an unprecedented level, giving him a momentum few believed possible even weeks ago. Farage's ability to tap into public frustration has been his greatest strength. His supporters see him as a fearless truth-teller, willing to confront the entrenched elites who they believe have neglected ordinary citizens for far too long. This narrative has allowed Farage to capitalise on widespread disenchantment with mainstream parties and growing concerns over immigration, economic inequality, and national identity. The Speaker's declaration has emboldened these sentiments, sending a clear message that Farage is no longer just a protest figure, but a serious contender for the highest office in the land. His campaign, previously dismissed by many, now carries the weight of a potential mandate. However, Farage's path to power is not without significant challenges. The political establishment remains deeply hostile to his rise, viewing him as a divisive and polarising figure whose policies could destabilise the UK's social fabric and international standing. The media backlash has been fierce, with many outlets framing Farage's ascent as a threat to democracy and warning of the dangers of populism. This narrative has further polarised public opinion, intensifying the battle lines between Farage's supporters and detractors. Within Parliament, Farage faces resistance not only from Labour and Conservatives, but also from within his own ranks, where questions about his leadership style and long-term vision have begun to surface. Moreover, the legal and procedural hurdles that lie ahead cannot be underestimated. The Speaker's declaration, while historic, does not guarantee Farage's premiership. The UK's unwritten constitution and parliamentary system require a formal vote of confidence in the House of Commons before any leadership change can be confirmed. Given the current fragmentation of Parliament and the uncertainty surrounding party loyalties, this vote promises to be fiercely contested. Negotiations and backroom deals will play a crucial role in determining the outcome, and the possibility of a hung Parliament or even a new general election looms large. Farage's ability to navigate this complex political landscape will be tested as never before. In the midst of this chaos, the Labour Party is grappling with profound internal strife. Starmer's breakdown has exposed the fragility of his leadership and intensified calls from within the party for a change in direction. Starmer's next moves will be critical in determining whether Labour can recover or continues to spiral downward. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party finds itself in uncharted waters. Traditionally, the main opposition to Labour, the Conservatives, are now squeezed from both sides by Farage's growing influence. The Speaker's statement has exposed vulnerabilities within the party, with some members advocating for collaboration with Reform UK, while others push for a reassertion of core Conservative principles. This internal division risks weakening the party's ability to present a united front during the coming political battles. The potential fragmentation of the right-wing vote could lead to unpredictable electoral outcomes and complicate efforts to form a stable government. The Conservative leadership's response will be crucial in shaping the party's future and the broader political landscape. The role of the media and public opinion in this unfolding drama cannot be overstated. The live broadcast of the Speaker's announcement and Starmer's emotional reaction have captivated audiences across the nation, highlighting the intense public interest in this political crisis. Social media platforms have exploded with commentary, memes, and heated debates, reflecting the deep divisions within British society. The rapid spread of information and misinformation has made it increasingly difficult for traditional political institutions to control the narrative. This environment of heightened scrutiny and polarisation adds another layer of complexity to the already volatile situation, influencing the strategies of political actors and the decisions of voters. Internationally, the UK's allies and rivals alike are watching closely. The prospect of Nigel Farage as Prime Minister has sent ripples through diplomatic circles, raising questions about the future direction of UK foreign policy, especially in relation to the European Union, the United States, and the Commonwealth. Farage's previous tenure as a prominent Brexit advocate signals a potential shift toward more nationalist and protectionist policies, which could alter the UK's role on the world stage. International markets have reacted nervously to the uncertainty, with investors concerned about the implications for trade, stability, and economic growth. This external pressure further complicates the domestic political landscape, underscoring the high stakes of the current crisis. As the political saga continues to unfold, the nation stands at a crossroads. The House Speaker's unprecedented declaration has not only challenged long-standing political norms, but also unleashed a wave of uncertainty, fear, and hope across the UK. Nigel Farage's rise symbolises a broader rejection of the status quo, while Keir Starmer's breakdown exposes the vulnerabilities of traditional political leadership in a time of crisis. The coming days will be critical in determining whether this moment leads to lasting change, political realignment, or deeper division. The eyes of the nation remain fixed on Westminster, where the battle for Britain's future is being fought in real time. As pressure mounts and the clock ticks, Britain now braces itself for what could be the most transformative political shift in modern memory. The fallout from the Speaker's live declaration has shattered traditional norms, igniting fierce debates in every corner of the country. Behind the scenes, Westminster is consumed by a frenzy of late-night meetings, emergency strategy sessions, and frantic phone calls between party leaders and power brokers. No one expected this. Not the Labour frontbench, not the Conservatives, and certainly not the civil servants scrambling to understand what comes next. Nigel Farage, once seen as a political outlier, is now being briefed on state matters with urgency, as speculation builds that the transition of power could occur faster than anyone anticipated. What makes this moment particularly unnerving is the complete breakdown of established parties are no longer operating within the bounds of standard political rivalry. Panic has triggered betrayals, defections, and alliances that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. Rumours are swirling that several Labour MPs have held secret meetings with Reform UK figures, hoping to jump ship before it's too late. Conservative backbenchers, terrified of annihilation in the next election, are also contemplating realignment, with some even publicly praising Farage's boldness and authentic connection to the people. The system, once tightly held together by unwritten rules and institutional loyalty, is now tearing apart at the seams. Meanwhile, inside Labour HQ, the atmosphere is grim. Predictable political behaviour. Keir Starmer's breakdown, captured live and replayed endlessly across media channels, has become the defining image of the party's implosion. Advisors are divided over whether he should step down immediately or cling to leadership through the coming storm. Calls for Angela Rayner or even David Lammy to take over as interim leader are growing louder by the hour, with factions battling to determine the party's future course. Some believe a sharp pivot toward the left is necessary to reconnect with disillusioned working-class voters, while others argue for a more centrist, damage control approach to prevent further hemorrhaging of support. This internal war has paralysed the party at the worst possible moment. Across the aisle, the Conservative Party is facing an identity crisis of its own. Once the natural party of governance, the Tories are now desperately trying to figure out how to remain relevant in a rapidly changing political landscape. The emergence of Farage as the Speaker-backed Prime Minister-in-waiting has upended all of Rishi Sunak's carefully crafted strategies. Senior Tory figures are wrestling with whether to oppose Farage publicly or secretly negotiate terms of coexistence to preserve some influence. Behind closed doors, discussions about leadership challenges, rebranding efforts, and emergency election strategies have exposed the party's desperation. For the first time in decades, the Tories are no longer the default alternative to Labour. They are now just another crumbling pillar in a collapsing political structure. But while politicians scramble, the British public is also undergoing a dramatic awakening. Many citizens, long apathetic or disillusioned by traditional politics, are now fully engaged, watching live streams, joining rallies, and flooding social media with impassioned posts. For Farage's supporters, this is the moment they've been waiting for. A reckoning, a revolution, a chance to take back control in its truest sense. They speak of patriotism, sovereignty, and cultural pride. For his critics, this is nothing short of a nightmare, a populist coup masked as democratic expression. They fear what a Farage government might mean for civil liberties, foreign relations, and the UK's place in the world. The nation is split, not just by political lines, but by entirely different visions of Britain's identity and future. Farage, for his part, is moving swiftly. He has reportedly begun assembling a transition team, selecting trusted allies and policy experts to craft an immediate agenda. Sources close to his inner circle claim his top priorities include sweeping immigration reforms, overhauling the tax system, slashing foreign aid, and triggering referendums on key domestic issues to prove he is returning power to the people. The boldness of this plan has stunned even some of his longtime supporters, who now wonder if he can truly deliver such a radical transformation without igniting nationwide resistance. His critics argue that his populist rhetoric is masking an authoritarian playbook, and warn that constitutional norms are already being trampled in the rush to install him as Prime Minister. International reaction has been swift and uneasy. In Brussels, EU officials are reportedly holding emergency meetings to assess how to deal with a potential Farage government, especially in light of his long-standing animosity toward the bloc. Washington is similarly unsettled, with US diplomats expressing concern over Britain's future commitment to NATO and global alliances. The uncertainty surrounding UK foreign policy has triggered market volatility, with the pound tumbling and investors fleeing sectors likely to be affected by Farage's nationalist economic agenda. At home, the Bank of England is under pressure to issue a statement to stabilise markets, while think tanks and legal experts warn of a possible constitutional crisis if proper processes are not followed in the transition of power. All eyes are now on Parliament, where the final chapter of this drama is set to play out. The Speaker's declaration, while shocking, is not legally binding. It has, however, shifted the balance of power irreversibly. If Farage secures enough support to command a majority or trigger a successful vote of no confidence, his path to number 10 could be secured in days rather than weeks. Already, the corridors of Westminster are buzzing with speculation about which MPs will cross the floor, who will abstain, and how the opposition parties will coordinate their response. The tension is palpable. Every press conference, every leaked email, every whisper in the halls could tilt the balance one way or the other. The stakes have never been higher. This is not just a political crisis. This is a defining moment for Britain. Institutions are being tested. Loyalties are being shattered. The rulebook has been torn apart. Keir Starmer's emotional collapse marked the end of one era, and the Speaker's bold announcement has heralded the start of another, one that could reshape British democracy for generations. Whether this is the rise of a new people's champion or the beginning of deeper unrest remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the United Kingdom will never be the same again. The nation holds its breath, waiting to see what comes next.